Cameroon's 2025 presidential race is weird. Let's start with the man himself, President Paul Biya. He is 92 years old and is officially running for his 8th term. If he wins, his rule will stretch beyond 43 years. Paul Biya came to power in 1982, and the contrast between his age and the country's youth is hard to ignore. Cameroon's median age is just 18. That means most of the population has only ever known one president. Now, if Paul Biya finishes another 7-year term, it will take him to 2032. By then, he will have ruled for half a century. That's 50 years in power. It's hard to wrap your head around. A political system where the leader has literally outlasted generations. But Paul Biya's story didn't start with the presidency. Long before 1982, he was already part of the country's inner circle. He has been at the center of power since 1968, serving as Secretary General of the Presidency and later as Prime Minister. In other words, he's been running the show for almost 60 years. His is a system that's been carefully built over decades, and one that still works perfectly for him even today. So how does one man stay in power this long, you might ask? It all comes down to two things: control and loyalty. Control, because the entire state machinery works in his favor. It is said the media, the courts, the election commission, all of it have been co-opted or neutralized. Institutions that should act as checks on power have become part of it instead. And then there's loyalty. In Cameroon, loyalty is everything. It's the currency of survival. It has been said that every major government contract, every key appointment, and every promotion runs through Biya's ruling party, the CPDM. For anyone in the system, allegiance to Paul Biya isn't optional. It's actually how you keep your job, your influence, your livelihood. This sounds like the ultimate dictator playbook. So for these upcoming elections, Paul Biya announced his candidacy on X, formerly Twitter, through a short statement that felt more procedural. Since then, he has been largely silent, skipping public appearances and even leaving the country altogether. In fact, just days before the official campaign began, Paul Biya left for what officials described as a private stay in Europe, reportedly in Geneva. He even missed the United Nations General Assembly.
Cameroon's 92-year-old President Paul Biya appeared on Tuesday at his first campaign rally for the upcoming election. The world's oldest head of state is seeking an 8th term when voters go to the polls on Sunday. Biya addressed supporters in the far north town of Marua.
Mon objectif, mes chers compatriotes,
My goal, my fellow citizens, is for every young person, whatever they may be, to have opportunities that enable them to easily find a job or become an entrepreneur.
His team has even released AI-generated videos talking about stability as well as future progress. Meanwhile, at home, his supporters still hold rallies, waving flags and singing songs to cardboard cutouts of a man who never appears. This is a campaign built on absence, one that somehow continues to function without the candidate himself. And now we also have open dissent from his own family. Brenda Biya's public criticism might be the most shocking twist of all. On TikTok, the president's daughter urged Cameroonians not to vote for her father, calling out poverty, unemployment, and the exhaustion that has come from decades of stagnation. His ruling party even tried to play it down almost immediately. Senior members of the CPDM dismissed Brenda Biya as irrelevant, saying she was just a young woman living comfortably in Switzerland, far removed from life in Cameroon. Despite all of this, the age, the absence, even the president's own daughter calling for change, Cameroon's opposition is still divided. And that division, my friends, more than anything else, is what keeps Paul Biya in control. On paper, this should be the opposition's moment. Years of frustration have built up. The ruling elite is losing its unity, and public trust in government is near its lowest point in decades. This year, 2025, has even seen major cracks appear within Paul Biya's own ranks. Some of his long-time loyalists are now walking away from the system they helped build. Among the most notable defectors are Issa Chiroma Bakari, the former Minister of Employment who resigned in June, and Bello Buba Maigari, the current Minister of Tourism and a heavyweight from the north who once served as Prime Minister back in 1982. These are not outsiders. These men have helped build the system they are now criticizing. But anyways, even with these high-profile defections, men who know the machinery of power inside out and who represent key regions in the north, there's still no unity amongst Cameroon's opposition. No shared message, no single candidate capable of turning public frustration into a real movement. Bello Buba Maigari has refused to join any coalition. Other opposite figures are running their own campaigns, splitting the vote yet again. And so, analysts in Cameroon are clear about it. This failure to unite all but guarantees Paul Biya another victory. This brings us to the nation's Anglophone crisis. In Cameroon's English-speaking northwest and southwest regions, this Anglophone crisis has reached a breaking point. Cameroon's Anglophone crisis did not begin overnight. It goes back to 2016 when teachers and lawyers began protesting discrimination and the erosion of their language and legal systems. What started as peaceful demonstrations quickly turned into a full-scale rebellion after government crackdowns in 2017. Since then, the violence has escalated. Thousands have been killed, villages destroyed, and hundreds of thousands displaced. Schools and hospitals have been closed. For many in the Anglophone regions, democracy itself now feels meaningless, a performance happening far away in Yaoundé, the capital. In the past, President Paul Biya's government tried to ease tensions through what it called the Major National Dialogue. However, critics say it was more of public relations than actual reconciliation. These talks also excluded key separatist leaders and failed to address the central issues: autonomy, justice for abuses, and the possibility of a return to a federal system for Cameroon. Analysts often say Paul Biya's government has maintained order without ever achieving peace. Political analysts in Cameroon have summed it up best. In this country, election results are rarely a surprise. Everyone knows how it ends before the first vote has been cast. And so, when the outcome is already known, the campaign becomes something else entirely. It turns into theater, and that is why Cameroon's elections are very weird. Paul Biya will almost certainly win an 8th term in office. But beneath the appearance of stability, Cameroon faces serious structural problems. Don't forget to like and share the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been Tatenda of African Biographics. Until next time, cheers. Have a good one.